This week in the conversation, I have the privilege to welcome North Carolina-based author Cori Nevruz. She's going to talk about her debut novel titled Dirty Laundry, but a very intriguing title. But before we get into the video, I just want to remind everyone it's important to subscribe to this channel. And if you do, don't forget to click the notification bell so that way every time a video is posted, it'll go directly into your portal. So let's get started. Again, my name is Ardain Isma. I am the chief editor for CSMS Magazine, and I am this afternoon with a wonderful author. Her name is Cori Nevruz from North Carolina. Before we start, I just have to say, Cori, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so to officially start, would you please tell the viewers of CSMS Magazine, who is Cori Nevruz?
Yes. My name is Cori Nevruz, and I live in Wilmington, North Carolina with my husband and my 3 boys. I like music. I love to read. I love sports. I like to play sports. I like to watch sports. I like to coach sports. So I'm fortunate I have a big family of people who also feel the same. And and I'm also the author of Dirty Laundry, new thriller.
This is precisely what we're going to talk about. Yeah, but before we get into the story, you just said you love sports. What kind of sport you're talking about?
Oh my gosh, really everything. I love football. I love soccer. I love tennis. I love hockey, basketball. Some of them I just like to watch, not play, but pretty much any sport I'll play if I get a chance.
Okay. And it seems like in North Carolina, they really love soccer. 2 years ago, I was in Charlotte. And it was a time that at the big stadium near downtown, they were having 2 huge European soccer teams playing in North Carolina. It was great.
Yes.
A lot of people were going to rush into downtown. And
I would have loved to see that.
Yeah. So Cori, Dirty Laundry, it's a very intriguing title.
Thank you.
Could you tell us, or me in particular, how did you get to come to this title?
Well, I guess it has to do a little bit with the story. The story has to do with the woman whose husband doesn't want her to talk about her problems, doesn't want her to talk about their private life with other people. And I always heard the saying of, you give away too much of your private life, you're airing your dirty laundry. So that's where the title came from.
A character-driven story and bearing the name of Samantha, dealing with an overbearing husband, controlling husband. And Samantha doesn't seem to like it, but it seems like she feels pinned down, not being able to free herself from this uncomfortable situation. We don't want to give too much in the story, but...
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, she's, I think when she becomes a wife and a mother, her anxiety and her depression become more than what she's used to and a lot to handle. And rather than seeking therapy or talking to a friend or family, she turns to her journal to purge her emotions and her feelings. But at some point, her journal is just not enough. And what she reveals to her friend could risk both of their lives. And that's where the suspense comes in.
And if I understand correctly, I mean, at the beginning, this is a family that has a very humble beginning and then switched to a suburban neighborhood.
Right.
Okay.
So they started their small family, and then as their family grew and her husband began to see her need to be in a different kind of community, they moved into a really nice community that's close to the school, good for the kids, good for her mental health. So her husband, is not without flaws, but there's plenty that he does to help her. It's just maybe a little backwards for some people.
And that's where the big suspense come in, okay?
Right.
We're not going to tell the whole story now. You have to flip the pages now. You need to get
Right.
dirty laundry into your hot little hands to dig through the story. But this
great.
is the story also that reflects the reality of life itself. Because, we as novelists, we write stories based on our own professional or even personal experiences. Because you can't be a compelling writer without understanding human behavior, especially if you're a novelist. Now, is that a story you just created or based on some observation that you've had over the years, Cori?
A lot. I don't like to think of myself as being just like Samantha for many reasons, but do put a lot of my personal experiences into her character. I've struggled with depression and anxiety myself, and I know how important it is to address that, not to ignore it, and to take care of that. And so I've taken some experiences and the feelings that I've had when I've been in those situations where you feel out of control, whether it's because you're a perfectionist and a control freak, and all of a sudden you have a baby who doesn't eat when you want them to eat and doesn't sleep when you want them to sleep, and you no longer have control. So I've taken some of those experiences that I've had with that and flipped it into Samantha's life. There's also a couple little stories that happen that are like anecdotes that happen in the book that are from my personal life too, like my son getting lost in a Sears and then me finding him having used the bathroom on one of their mattresses. So that was actually a real story.
That sounds interesting. Because I remember me personally when I got married and we had our first child, and I was still in college though. And when you a husband, you start getting to understand or learning how to live, in a marriage. And I used to work at night, from 3 to 11. But in the morning, first thing in the morning, I had to rush to college. So I could not understand my wife changing some kind of a mood change. She doesn't seem to be too happy. When I walk in, she just hands me the baby. But I said, well, I'm very tired. I cannot deal with it. It didn't take, it took me a while to understand the pressure she was under when she began to share that with me, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think it's very hard for people to understand both sides of that because we went through the same thing. I was so exhausted just sitting with this little baby that shouldn't be exhausting, but it was emotionally draining and it was physically tiring. But then my husband has these long, hard days too. And like you said, you just want to come home and relax. And then here's the baby because their day is hard, but it's such different kinds of tired. But it's nice to be able to see it from both perspectives because both people really do. It's not easy on anybody.
No.
I'm sure some people have easy babies, but not me.
Now, and Cori, I understand this is not your first novel. You are a career writer. So is Dirty Laundry the beginning of a long series or just a sequel or just a standalone story?
I think Dirty Laundry is standalone. The way it ends is pretty end. I did write before, but this is my first novel and my first thriller, but I've written 11 children's books. So they're picture books. And what's the most amazing part of that is not what I write, and it's not the poetry that goes into the books. It's the fact that I have children do the illustrations and they're amazing. I just put an idea out there and kids submit their illustrations and I select the ones that best fit the page. Not always the best technical art, but whatever fits best and whatever really speaks to me. And I'll put that in the book. And those kids, over 100 kids now are published illustrators, which is very, very special to me. But this was my first venture into a full-length novel, and never would I have thought this was possible. But now that I've gotten a taste of it, I want more, and I am loving it. I love writing, and I want to really stick with writing novels.
Okay. So Cori, so how long did it take you to conceive this novel?
It was kind of in my head, and all I had to do was put it on paper. The first draft probably took me 3 months. It was very fast.
Really?
It was fast. I actually spent most of last summer just sitting under an umbrella watching my kids play, and I just wrote and wrote, and it needed a lot of editing and it needed a lot of changes, but to be able to get something out on paper that fast, I don't think that's going to be typical for me.
But you know, it seems like the story, you already had it in you. All you had to do is to just let it out.
Right.
Using your pen.
And I added a few things here and there, and tried to really change perspectives a few times, of making sure that I'm getting everybody's point of view and angle. And but besides that, just getting the story out was what I thought was going to be the hardest part, but it just flowed and it felt so good.
But Cori, let me ask you a question. You said you wanted to get everybody's point of view. Do you share the story? Did you share it with several friends or editors or your husband? And
I did share it with my husband. My husband has done some writing himself. He's very talented, and I wanted to make sure that I could see it from a man's point of view, and that he could read the book and understand both Samantha and her husband Roger's side. And that was wonderful. The feedback I got from him was by far the best feedback I got. But I also shared it with a couple friends, who one of them was as excellent with line editing and could correct my grammar all day long, which is nice to have. And then another friend was more, it was more for positive reinforcement.
Would be more specializing in what we call developmental editing.
Definitely that's what my husband helped me with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he helped me.
It might be nice, Cori, that you have your own spouse. You know, you could be in bed.
Editing your editor. Yes.
That's interesting. I wish my wife were like that too.
Well, he works very long hours and he works very hard, and he comes home exhausted. So for him to then pick up my book and give me his ideas is great. He's very helpful.
But at the end of the day, it's a shared project, because, you know, he has it from the deepest end of his heart. This is a project that he and you know, collaborating and it, you know. Right. Now, Dirty Laundry really is a story. The title itself is very intriguing. So it's not going to take a reader, someone who loves to read, that long to pick up the book and try to get what's between the covers. Right. You know, and especially with the subtitle. Not everything, you know, what it says, right? That's true. So, yeah, because anyone, I mean, a lot of people at some form in their life, at some point in their lives, would probably face a situation, not typically precisely like Samantha's, but also, you know, something like this. I would, you know, I'm very much interested in the story, and I'm sure that a lot of people would be very much interested in it too. So the publisher that publishes the book, when you submit to them, what was the first reaction?
They got back to me immediately. They were very supportive. They had so much interest right away, and they wanted to see the full manuscript. And as soon as they got it, they were, you know, right on it. They sent me a contract right away, which was fabulous. And they've been so great to work with. They're very supportive, especially for someone who this is my first rodeo in publishing, and they've been very helpful and guiding me and patient. So it's been such a good experience with them.
Mhm.
And they've been very encouraging along the whole way.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. You've got the support of home, friends, and the most important one, which is the strategic support that you get from the publisher itself.
That's
So
right.
that's great. Now, because in our writing community and Twitter, so we have a lot of writers, suffering from the effect of finding a publisher after you get the story done. It's a painstaking process. In your case, you were pretty lucky to get a publisher
I
this
was.
way. So a lot of people having to resort to self-publishing
Yes.
because the torturous process of getting a publisher. And the big traditional publishers, my understanding, they no longer take queries directly from writers. You have to go through a literary agency, and then finding an agent is not an easy either.
No.
When you go to writers' conferences, that it's pretty much that's what you hear people talk about.
Right. I think it's such a difficult process, and when you think about the numbers of how many people who are writing and how many people are sending out and querying literary agents, it's astonishing how many people are in the market.
Mhm.
And those literary agents, they do the best they can to get through all the queries and respond to who they can.
Uh-huh.
But I like to not think it's not you, it's not me. It's really, they're looking for something specific. They have specific contacts. And it's heartbreaking to get rejections from literary agents, from publishers, but it's so sadly part of the process. And I hope that makes us as writers stronger.
Mhm.
And since most of us have gone through some kind of rejection,
Oh yeah.
it kind of makes us, family, and the fact that we can share that experience is not fun as it is. But I think that's just part of it, unfortunately.
Right, Corey, you're so right. And I have a friend of mine who's also a writer. He told me he has long ceased to call it rejection.
Yeah.
To him, it's just another unsuccessful try. That's
right.
What
Yeah.
And now, in your community, do you have support from writers?
I actually don't know many writers that are in my community, and I'm sure that COVID doesn't help. Maybe if I had started writing when COVID didn't exist, maybe I would have been able to meet other people out and in writing groups. But I know there's a local writer here, but I've yet to meet him. So I don't really have the local support, although the local Barnes & Noble bookstore has been very supportive of my children's books, and they've welcomed myself and my illustrators and for book signings and illustrator workshops. And so the bookstores have been very supportive. But yeah, I don't really, most of my friends, like you said, my writing friends are all on Twitter.
Isn't that nice? Cori, you know what?
It's amazing.
I've never anticipated that I could find such a wonderful, interesting people supporting each other on Twitter.
Yes.
To me, it's the best platforms when it comes to writing. I know you could go to LinkedIn, Facebook, writers' communities are everywhere, but on Twitter, the support is right there. Now, my other questions, every time I have an author and a conversation, at some point in the conversation, we stop talking about literature. And then we switch to food and music, because I know, and also your favorite author. My question is, I know you, right now, you are also in the world of literature, of writing beautiful novelistic prose. So you understand when a book is well written. So when a story is compelling. My question, Cori, who is your favorite author?
That's a really good question. I really love reading Ruth Ware right now. She's one of the people, I like thrillers, I like suspense. I love Harlan Coben. I just read a fantastic book And the problem with me is I read like 4 books a week. And so I end up getting everything mixed up in my head and I forget the titles and I forget the authors. So it's really hard to make recommendations. But the book I just read was The House in the Cerulean Sea.
Okay.
And it was fabulous. I wish I could remember the author's name, but I loved his writing and I loved how it made me feel. And I know not every book I read is written the same and it's not always the perfect literature, but you know, when you have that different voice for your book that goes with whatever your genre is, that's what makes it special.
Okay, now, but listen, since you're a mom, now, what is your favorite cuisine?
Oh, I really, really love sushi.
Sushi?
Love sushi.
Sushi, okay.
Yeah. I've tried to make it and I'm not very good at it, but I love to order it and I love to eat it.
Okay.
So.
What about in the home now? Is there a special dish that you love to prepare?
My kids really love it when I make mac and cheese. I like to roast vegetables. That's like my favorite thing.
Okay.
But you know, I don't really, my kids aren't huge fans of that yet. I'm hoping they'll develop the vegetable taste eventually. But yeah, I love roast vegetables. I love fish.
Okay. So my last question on this, what is your favorite music at this point?
Well, I'm a big jazz fan.
Yeah.
My older son's name is Coltrane.
Okay.
My middle son's middle name is Calloway. And my youngest son's middle name is Vaughn, after 3 amazing jazz artists. So I love jazz, but I also like a lot of different kinds of music. I listen to pop. I listen to R&B. I love 90s hip hop. Like that's one of my favorites.
90s hip hop.
I have such a variety.
Okay.
There's a pretty big spectrum of my musical tastes.
Okay.
But yeah, I love music. It changes my mood. It makes me, gives me energy when I don't have energy, and it takes me down when I need it. It's
okay.
I love it. It's magical. Music is magical.
And your favorite musician?
Gosh, that's a tough one because I like so many. I would probably say John Coltrane. John Coltrane's always been like, always go back to John Coltrane. Love just some jazz.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Other.
And there come my last question. If there's anything, Cori, you would want, if there's a message you would want to send to the world using your pen as a writer, what message would it be?
I think it's that I hope everyone can just be kind and be themselves. I think everyone is different. Everyone is unique. Whether you feel like they're flaws, they're not. They're what make us special. And that's I want everyone to be themselves.
Okay, great. With that, I'm just going to say it's been such a pleasure to have such a wonderful conversation with Cori Nevruz, an author based in North Carolina. But don't go yet, okay?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.